what your fan base is like, because you have so many different, you're diversified. So being Jewish is a fish out of water in that area. Then you get the cerebral palsy, and then you have, maybe people coming to your show that identify that. Then there's relationship stuff. And then now your gender, kind of questioning, and what's going to be next.
So first of all, I think funny is funny, right? And that's the most important thing. And like, I don't go, I want to question my sexuality so that I can attract gay fans. Right. Yeah, that was sort of a tricky one to do that balance. But like, I think for me, it's not about going, I want to cultivate a disabled audience, or I want to cultivate a Jewish audience, or whatever sexuality I eventually fall on in terms of how I see myself, kind of audience. I just tell my stories and appeal to people.
Aaron Simmonds. Yes?
Hello. Yes.
We are going to get into some fun stuff. I saw your Amazon special. It was on Amazon.
Right. Yeah.
So good. So fun.
Thank you.
So I can't wait to get into your career. And then we can get into, some of the stuff that you talk about in your routine. So Let's go back to the beginning. Why stand up? How did that start? And where did it start? 3-part question.
Okay. So I have a real answer and I have a joke answer. Which one would you like to hear first?
Always the real and then the joke.
Okay, fine. The joke answer is very quickly. But so I was in kind of a rut in my life. I was in a bit of a depressive relationship or repressive relationship. I was also I was a personal trainer and I was a powerlifter in my spare time. And both of those things are very exclusive of other hobbies, right? Especially with the powerlifting, I found like I can go and eat anywhere. I can go to restaurants. I can drink. I can smoke. I can do anything. And I felt like my life was getting more and more like hemmed in and closed in. And so I just thought, I really want to do something stupid. And it's at this point where I was in the gym and one of my clients, she said that her boyfriend at the time was a comedian. And I'd always loved comedy. Like, it was always the thing for me. Like, now I realize I watch it like a comedian, and like I would watch the same stand-up specials over and over again. And I remember my mum, this is like tangent to the story, but I remember I was given like a CD for a birthday or something that had 7 different comedians on it. And I would listen to this CD over and over and over again. And my mum was like, but you've heard the jokes, but the jokes aren't funny when you've heard them once before. And I was like, no, they're still funny. Like, I know what they're going to say and it's still funny to me. Anyway, but I'd always watched stand-up on TV and just thought, well, I'm funny, but I'm not as funny as that guy. Forgetting that guy had been doing stand-up for 15 years and that was the funniest 5 minutes that he could do at the time. And so when I got introduced to this guy, Matt, he was just a regular guy. He was funny, but he wasn't any funnier than I was. And he said I should give it a go. And so at the time, I was just looking for something stupid to do. And it was either do 5 minutes of stand-up comedy or do a bungee jump. And I've subsequently done both. And the first gig I ever did was way more scary. It's the most nerve-wracking thing I've ever done. I remember, like, genuinely, I brought dinner with me because at the time I was a powerlifter and I was so routine in terms of when I ate. I was like, well, I eat dinner at 6. So I'm going to bring dinner with me because I'm going to be in the... And I literally could not put it in my mouth. It was just like, I was so nervous. I was like, I don't want to eat this. That never happened to me before. And so, yeah, that's how I did my first ever gig. And I remember it was in Piccadilly Circus, which is in central London.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, but I had this like feeling that I didn't want anybody in the gig to know it was my first gig. So I sort of tried to make it like I was very calm about the whole situation. I was trying to pretend like, oh yeah, I've been doing this loads. I know exactly what I'm doing.
How old were you?
I was 24 when I did my first gig. So like not a child, but also nowhere near as sort of experienced as I am now in life. And so I remember I did my first gig and it went really well in my mind. Obviously, I haven't recorded it, I haven't listened back to it. There's probably like 3 laughs in 5 minutes, and I'm like, I smashed it. But in my mind, it was really great. And just the wave, I mean, there's the wave of adrenaline and the wave of dopamine was just all over me. But I was in this little gig and I was pretending like I'd done it all the time. So I was just like, yeah, no big deal. And then I got out of the gig. I went on the tube, which is our subway system. And in England, I don't know if you've ever been to England, but we do not talk to each other on the train. If you talk to an English person on the train, they think you are insane and like will walk away from you. That's how mad we are.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I was sort of there, had my headphones in, very quiet, and all of the time I'm like, it's just bubbling inside that I'd just done this gig and that I was like, I'm going to be a fucking comedian. And I remember I got to the station where I parked my car, and the station was up a big hill. And one of the things your audience probably don't know is I have cerebral palsy and I use a wheelchair from time to time. And
how long have you had that? How long do you have that? Your whole life?
Cerebral palsy my whole life. And so I've always been able to walk. Okay. And I walked pretty much everywhere up until the age of about 15, 16, when I got a bit more independent and wanted to go out and be able to walk for a little bit longer. So I got into the chair. I also started playing wheelchair basketball at the time, so that sort of coincided.
Were you working? When did you start working out? I'm just trying to get the texture of everything here. When did you start working out?
I probably started working out about sort of 15, 16, 17, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, I was a very ripped teenager comparative to how I am now. Very much gone out to seed. But yeah, so I use a wheelchair, and this station was up quite a big hill to the car park, and I just went flying down this hill, screaming at the top of my lungs, "I'm going to be a fucking comedian!" Just over and over and over again, like literally shouting it at the top of my lungs. And I remember there was like not a sharp right turn, but like a right turn to get into the car park. And then there was this guy, he was like, probably like 50. And he just looked at me like I was the most insane person he had ever, like I tried to talk to him on the tube, that level of insane. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know where that guy is now, but I like to think that in sort of 5-10 years time, if I get famous enough, he's going to be like, I saw that guy shouting down a hill once, which I'm very excited about.
Do you talk about working out and training people in your routine? I don't remember that.
So you would have seen Disabled Coconut, right? The one where I got trolled on, I got trolled on the internet for not being disabled enough. So in that show, I didn't talk about it. I talk about it a little bit more in my most recent show, which is called Baby Steps. I talk about being a personal trainer, and I talk about being a powerlifter and the drug testing time. I got drug tested when I did a powerlifting competition. Would have been sort of 10, 15 years ago now. But like I had to pee in front of a dude, and that was all crazy and a weird experience. So I talk about that in my latest show. But no, it wasn't something that it wasn't even something that I was planning on talking about in the show. It was just about, I knew what I wanted. The latest show that I did, I did it all on my feet. So for the first time ever, I did a show. So I went up to the Edinburgh Festival, which is a month long, and I did a show every day on my feet for the hour, and I didn't sit down once. And part of that show was about the physicality of it all, and the fact that I understood what a physical challenge it would be going into it. And so, yeah, it was a big challenge, but a one that I was looking forward to. I didn't really realize how ridiculous the challenge it would be. I don't know if I'm not going to do it again. I don't know if I knew. I'm still glad I did it though. Very proud of it.
Comedians are like that. They want to be able to, do all kinds of different gigs in all type of different ways to get your skill set, especially if you have a mindset of training, physical training, right?
Yes, absolutely. Sorry, 1 second. My agent emailed me about a gig tonight.
That's good. You're working.
Right, I'm with you. So, yeah, absolutely. And like part of the reason for that show was that I knew it was going to be a challenge, and I wanted to do something different. And I like it. So it was. So I did Disabled Coconut. That was my first ever show. I then did my. Then there was the pandemic. So like initially it was going to be. So I did that show in 2019, and then I was going to do my next show in 2020. Obviously, pandemic put pay to that, and so I didn't do that show until 2022. And that second show was called Hot Wheels. It was all about the positive side of being in a wheelchair. And then this one thing happened whilst touring that show, which was someone made a joke about the fact that I was in a wheelchair. One of the volunteers at a box office, and it completely fucked me off. So I was like, "Am I allowed to swear on this?" I've already sworn quite a lot,
and that's great.
Great. That's fun for that. Anyway, so it really fucked me off. So I was like, right, well, I'm going to write a show and do the whole thing on my feet. At the time, I could stand for about 15 minutes. And I was like determined to be like, right, this is the thing. I'm going to be able to do this on my feet. And yeah, it took me a year, and I walked pretty much every single day. And like I didn't train in the gym as such, but anytime I would do a gig, I would do it on my feet. And anytime I would sort of like the first sort of couple of previews of doing the show, I didn't even have any material. It was just like, I'm basically just doing this to see how long I can stand up for. Mm-hmm. So I did like half an hour, and then I did 45 minutes. And then gradually I was able to do it. But I didn't realize how tough it would be to do it day after day after day. So I did it 26 times in 27 days. And by the end of it, I was fucked.
What were the physicalities of like, challenges after those days?
It was really tough. So I've got a bit of a back issue anyway, harking back to the powerlifting days. Yeah. And so there was a couple of days where I had to have a sports massage. I think I had like 3 sports massages in Edinburgh just to get through it. And it was just the relentlessness of it. Essentially doing an incredibly hard workout day after day after day for a month. I remember the first massage that I got, he went really hard on it. Like I was in tears during the massage. But the next day, like I literally had to tell people, like friends of mine who would go to hug me, I was like, you cannot touch my shoulders, back, or butt, otherwise I will cry. Like I was in absolute agony. And there's a siren going off.
You know what? I want to ask you. It's hard enough to have all kinds of challenges. You know what? I want to do a inventory of the challenges. So you got that challenge. You you also aren't you Jewish?
I am indeed. Yeah, 2 disabilities. How's he do it? He's so brave.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I am. Sure. I can't hide it. The way I look and my last name. But
it was a bit of a clue.
Yeah. So, but the thing is that especially even now, like in what's going on right now, it's a tough time for the Jews. But are you finding like the challenges with that and all the things, and how do you navigating these challenges? And stand up alone is like, just challenging. So how do you do it?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. So for me, like, I feel with the Jewishness, what I think about that is like, I don't associate as Jewish. I'm an atheistic Jew. If someone says, are you Jewish? I say yes. But like, it's not really how I prescribe myself. And I don't feel like I'm as overtly Jewish as some other acts and some other Jewish people. The way I describe it is Jews can tell I'm Jewish and non-Jews can't. So it's just really like the balance, like perfect balance for that. But like in terms of the disability and how that sort of impacted in terms of my career and whether that's a barrier or anything. That wasn't really something that I ever considered. Mainly because I am fortunate enough to be able to walk. And so like the first gig that I ever did was down a flight of stairs, and I didn't even think about it, right? I would just get out of my wheelchair and carry my chair down the stairs because that's just who I am as a person. And I very much appreciate that. I'm very fortunate to be able to do that. And I know a lot of disabled people can't. But what's interesting, I find, is that in terms of ableism, haven't found any overtly to my face, right? And there's probably some gigs that I've applied to that the promoter has decided that. I do know this for a fact. There are like 1 or 2 gigs that I've applied for where the promoter's gone, we've got a flight of stairs, so you can't do the gig. And I've gone, I can do a flight of stairs. And they go, no, we aren't comfortable about you having to go down a flight of stairs. I'm like, I'm telling you I can do it.
Uh-huh.
That, that does happen, and I get that. But what's interesting, you're talking about challenges and all the rest of that. I realized fairly recently in my life that I'm not as straight as I thought I was. And I talked about it on stage last year during my show. And it was funny because in the 3 weeks in Edinburgh, I got more homophobia in that 3 weeks than I have had ableistic abuse my entire life. And what's really annoying about that is I realize that I'm not fully straight, but I haven't slept with a guy yet. So I'm getting all of the homophobia, none of the sweet, sweet cock. It seems very unfair, Mike.
This is comedy gold, though. All these challenges. I mean, you're fitting. You're checking all the boxes for great material.
Yeah. And it makes it very easy for TV companies to be like, oh, we need this, this, and this. We get that all in one guy. Great. On you go, son.
So a big part of your routine was, how you met your girlfriend and then the dinner and all that.
Yeah.
How is this chapter of your life, going on with that? Like, let's talk about that part of it.
So that relationship was based from 4 years ago. Okay. And it was also written. So that relationship has ended. I have written my last 2 shows about the same person. And it's currently a very difficult situation. My next show is going to be called 4th Time Lucky. Because for several reasons, but she's broken up with me 3 times. And so this is the plan. I haven't told her yet. And so like, I want to get back together. I think she does too. And like some guys will go like with a boombox outside her flat. I spend £10,000 on an Edinburgh show and be like, this is how so it's a pretty big swing. But yeah, so love life is complicated, but hopefully, hello. My agent's just sent me back. I got that gig I applied for.
There you go. Now, where's that gig? Go. Where's the gig?
Cambridge.
Okay. Where's your favorite? But real quick interlude, since we're on that subject. Where's your favorite spots to perform?
Interesting. Like, I go all over the place. Like not in terms of like American road comics that are literally on the road 24/7. But like I love gigging up north and like Manchester and Liverpool and those kind of areas. And it's sort of, there's an atmosphere there and it's really, really great. But then like weirdly, I always do really well in places like Bristol and Brighton, where it's sort of the freaks and geeks and sort of, you talk about not being fully straight in Brighton and you're going to do pretty well. I think it's highest gay population in any country, in any city in Europe or something like that. Maybe Amsterdam is ahead of it. I don't know. It's a very gay friendly place. And so, yeah, I'm always happy to gig wherever. And like, but even those places where it's not like this sort of big city, but like it's their one thing in the month. Like you're in the middle of nowhere and you're in like this community center but they're so excited because they haven't done anything all month. And they're like, right, let's go do this. And so, yeah, I always find doing different places to be really interesting because there's always something that you get from that, right? Whether it's their first comedy night that they've ever had in that place, or it's, they're regulars, so they want to see something they haven't seen before. There's always different challenges and there's always something that you can learn from and try and improve. And that's what I find really, really interesting.
Meet the Bolo Pack, the ultimate travel companion that transforms into a hammock, a pop-up tent, and even a cooler. Whether you're hiking, camping, or chilling at the beach, the Bolo Pack has you covered. First up, the Bolo Pack is a sleek, compact backpack, perfect for day trips or long adventures. Need a break? With a simple pull, the Bolo Pack transforms into a relaxing hammock, perfect for catching your breath during hikes. Planning to spend the night? The Bolo Pack also converts into a pop-up tent, giving you shelter wherever you go. And the best part? The Bolo Pack doubles as a cooler, keeping your food and drinks fresh for hours. Let me show you how easy it is to switch between modes. First, the hammock. Just a few simple steps, and you're ready to relax. Next, the pop-up tent for quick shelter setup. And finally, the cooler function, ensuring you stay refreshed on the go. From day hikes to weekend getaways, the Bolo Pack adapts to your needs. Whether you're chilling, camping, or keeping your snacks cool, ready to upgrade your travel game? Get your Bolo Pack today and take your adventures to the next level. Link in the description.
I wonder what your fan base is like, because you get to talk to them afterwards. Are they like because you have so many different, you're diversified, so you got like, because being Jewish is a fish out of water in that area. Then you get the cerebral palsy, then you have maybe people coming to your show that identify that. Then there's relationship stuff, and then now you're just your gender, kind of questioning, and all that, where you're at with that. Do you see your, what's going to be next? I mean, do you see your career kind of like, well, there's another kind of contingent that's starting to come to my shows, or you see that?
I mean, what's interesting is, so first of all, I think funny is funny, right? And that's the most important thing. And like, I don't go, oh, I want to question my sexuality so that I can attract gay fans.
Right. You're just lucky like that in comedy. You're lucky in comedy.
Yeah. And so it was just something that happened in my life, and I wanted to talk about it on stage. And coincidentally, it was very popular. But what I think was interesting is actually the opposite of what you're saying is true, because for this last show in particular, I didn't mention anything about being a coming out show or being an LGBT plus show. And I think that's the reason why I got some of the homophobia, is because the people who were expecting you have those sort of less tolerant of LGBT people, right. Those kind of beliefs, looked at me, and by all intents and purposes, you look at the poster and you go, well, he's a straight white man. Nothing to scare me there. I'll go see that. And then I talk about wanting to suck a dick, and they're like, oh, absolutely not. No. Baby Jesus doesn't want this. So yeah, that was sort of a tricky one to do that balance. But like, I think for me, it's not about going, oh, I want to cultivate a disabled audience, or I want to cultivate a Jewish audience, or bi and whatever sexuality I eventually fall on in terms of how I see myself, kind of audience. I want to tell my stories and appeal to people. And like, for me personally, some of my favorite comics are women, and they're talking about their issues, and it's as far from my sphere as possible, but the jokes they're telling are funny. And like, I think the more personal you can be, the more personal you can be, the more universal it is, right? And so even if someone's never experienced the idea of someone claiming to be Jesus and trying to heal them, they can put themselves in that position, it would be like, well, yeah, obviously that would be mad. And I think for me personally, I've always felt like a bit of an outsider anyway. Like I don't do any observational comedy because I can't. Like it's just something that I'm not particularly skilled at doing. And any kind of but what my comedy comes from is like going, but this is how I'm different. This is how weird it is for me compared to, you know, how you don't have to think about how you're going to get from London to Edinburgh. I have to plan it out and make sure that I have this, this, and this in case. And it's not necessarily the fact that I'm disabled, it's the fact that I eat every 3 hours. And so I need to bring with me a sufficient amount of food so that I don't have to stop every 10 minutes and be like, someone get me a Cadbury's cream egg, or otherwise I'm going to go insane. Do you have Cadbury's cream egg in America?
No, we don't. So you're still training, you know, you're training well, your diet and all that is still on heavily regimented?
Yes and no. So I don't train in the gym anymore. I don't do any powerlifting. I haven't done since pre-pandemic. But this is an exclusive for your podcast. I started wrestling.
Oh shit. Wow.
Yeah. So I have just completed a 10-week beginners professional wrestling course. So I'm officially an amateur professional wrestler. And yeah, it's really stupid and it's really fun. And it's a ridiculous thing for a 33-year-old man with cerebral palsy and a back injury to start doing with his life. But I'm here for the ridiculousness. And so, yeah, we're going to see what happens with that. The diet is mainly because I try and be as good a human being as I can, but I get very hangry very, very quickly. And so I need to keep my blood sugars up. Otherwise, I turn into an asshole.
All right, back to the girlfriend. All right.
Yes.
So now we left that hanging. So where's that at right now? And what do you got planned? What are you going to do?
So it's a very good question. And full disclosure, after I do this podcast, I am going to be talking to I'm having a session of therapy.
Well, I'm like the preliminary to that because, you know.
There we go. Yeah. So how it is at the minute is we broke up about this time last year, and I thought it was completely done. And I was like, okay, well, that's that. And then she came to the Edinburgh. She really wanted to see my Edinburgh show. And she was going to, and then she didn't. And then it got nominated or longlisted for an award. So she was like, fuck it, I'm just going to go. And so it was sort of a whirlwind week or so with like her coming up. And it was, she came up for a couple of days with her mom, and it was crazy. There were some absolutely insane parts of it, including being at a show with both of them and her mum telling the comedian talking to her and being like, is there anything the matter with your life? And she went, I want to leave my husband. And I was like, well, I didn't know about that. And so it was sort of, you know, kind of weird couple of days. Anyway, so isn't it funny how composed I was when talking about comedy? And as soon as we start talking about my love life, I'm all over the shop.
It's relationships.
Yeah. And so basically we realized that we still had feelings for each other, and we weren't ready to be in a relationship at the time, but we were going to work towards it, and we were going to focus on ourselves and get ready for it and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of where we're at the minute. There isn't really a success, a sort of a happy conclusion or
right. But you've broken up 3 times.
Satisfying narrative at this.
You've broken up and you got back together 3 times, and you're going for a 4th.
Yeah.
That's
essentially what the show is potentially going to be about.
I think you're doing it for the makeup sex.
No, because I could just have sex with her. Like that's not.
I just thought I should. That's my fantasy. That's I need to go to a therapist for that.
Yeah. No, that door is not as shut as you would believe. Someone who said that they don't want to be with you anymore. But that we've done that so many times. Like even when we broke up, we like carried on sleeping together. And like it just didn't work out for obvious reasons. I'm still hopelessly in love with her, and I'm like, oh yeah, I can definitely separate sex and feelings. I'm not. I'm like, as soon as I'm there, I'm like, please never leave me, and it's too much. So she's definitely never going to listen to this podcast, so it's fine.
We'll send it to her. Don't worry about that. All right.
Yeah.
So now, just joking. No, we will. No, we won't. We will. All right. So now, what about what's the grand big view here? What's your ultimate goal? How do you because you see your career, and as his agent is still getting a hold of him saying, hey, we got another gig. You're which is good. What
I'm just confirming the gig, but yeah.
Yeah. I see what's happening. So so now what's your ultimate goal? What does that look like?
So it's an interesting question. I think for me, I'm not a big goal setter in terms of I've got to achieve all of this kind of stuff, right? Because I've done that in my previous iterations of my life, and it's never worked out the way I wanted it to. And when I started stand up, I just set smaller goals, and I said, I want to be able to do 5 minutes, and then I want to be able to do 10 minutes, and incremental goals is probably the best way of putting it. There's a couple of things that I know I definitely want to do, of TV shows that I want to be on. My favorite TV show in the world is Taskmaster, and I want to be on it. And that's by if I do that, I know I've had a successful career, and I'm very happy with my lot, even if that's the only thing that I do. Ultimately, though, the big thing for me is that I want to be a touring comic, and not in terms of I want to be making thousands and thousands of pounds every single day and all this kind of stuff. Money doesn't really motivate me in any real kind of way. The bigger thing is I want to have as much autonomy as possible, right? And I thought that for a very long time. And my thing is, I want to be successful enough that I can say, I'm going to go on a tour. I'm going to be going to your town sometime soon. Do you want to come see me because you've seen me do this and this and this and this and this, so that when I come out on stage, I don't have to spend the first 5-10 minutes convincing the audience I'm funny and going, hey, let me tell you some disabled jokes because that's what I need to talk about first, and then mention the Jewishness and how that interacts and all that kind of stuff. I don't want to have to do that. I want to have enough of a following and a fandom, even though those words are gross. I want to have enough people who like what I do to go, oh, he's going to be doing Leicester Square Theatre. Let's go see him. And whatever he says, we're happy to do. And I still want to be funny during those shows, but it's just a question of I want to be free to do the things that I want to do. And at my current level, I have a certain amount of freedom. But I think if I went up another level, then I would have another set of freedoms.
Yeah. Well, that is a common tale with a lot of comedians, and it's a worthy journey, because that's, you just want to be able to do your craft, and you want to be able to do it on your terms. And ma'am might add, as we come to a close here, what a heck of a thumbprint you have for your personality, and which is hand in hand with stand up. So I don't see you running out of or hitting a ditch with possibilities anytime soon. So
well, thank you very much. The thing about it, what's kind of lucky is I can't do anything else. So I sort of have to make stand-up work. Otherwise, I'm fucked. Because otherwise I can't. Look, as long as I keep working and I have enough money to provide myself with food and shelter, I'm very happy. And I like both of those two things. And I need to keep doing stand-up because I need to keep providing food and shelter for myself. And so, yeah, it's... I'm aware I can talk. It's my only skill. And I'm very lucky to have fallen into a career where I can do it and pay for me to eat.
Well, you inherently burn the boats, and good for you for doing so. That's probably contributed your success thus far. Tell everybody how they can find out more about you.
So easiest is sort of social media. It's at Rolling Comedian, as in rolling down a hill, not J.K. Rowling, because, some of us have tolerant views about the trans community. And such a risky joke. But if you don't like trans people, don't follow me. So at Rolling Comedian, or you can follow look at all my stuff on my website, aaronsimmondscomedy.com. I am going to be touring the UK. I don't know how many UK listeners you have. I'm going to be doing that in February. A very small tour to see if I like touring and see if there's enough demand for it. And so, yeah, that's going to be going around then. But yeah, follow me on social media. I don't really post much on social media because I fucking hate it. But at least I'm not one of those pricks who post all the fucking time. So just follow me and it won't interrupt your life in any which way.
Aaron Simmonds, great stories, great personality. Thank you so much for sharing.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me, mate.
Thanks for joining us. Gear up for your next adventure and head over to bolator.com to check out the amazing Bolo Pack and their other innovative outdoor gear. Catch you next time.